back to the Little Farm in the Forest. Some of you guys are new here, so welcome. If you're new here, my name is Kate. We are a up-and-coming small farm in the hills of southern Indiana, and on this channel of the interwebs, we talk about building our own little farm from the ground up. We talk about herbalism, we talk about foraging, we talk about pantry preparedness, and today we're just going to kind of do a sit and chat while I plant some seeds, and I wanted to do a market update. So I didn't get much footage at the market because it was super windy. We had our market last Friday. Today is Wednesday, and it went really well. We exceeded our goal. So we have a very small monetary goal that we are trying to meet every week, just to be realistic. And because this is our first time ever doing a market garden. And so that was really, really exciting. We had a great turnout. Last Friday was Oaks Day. I live near the Kentucky Derby. I live outside of Louisville. So last weekend was the Derby, and we weren't sure what the turnout was going to be with Oaks Day, which is one of the big races for the Derby. It's like the race before the actual Derby. I think it's for younger horses. But we had a great turnout, and I met a lot of really sweet vendors. I got to network a little bit. And I have some really exciting opportunities that were presented to me, but I'm not ready to quite share those yet, as they're still being kind of worked out. But I wanted to talk about what I learned from our very first farmers market. It went as smooth as it could, given the weather. It was just really windy. So I didn't really get to hang up my banner, and the print place was out of the vinyl canvas, so I was using a photo paper banner until they get the materials in, and unfortunately it ripped, so we actually ended up just taping it to the back of the truck. I really wish I would have ordered my banner sooner, so I wasn't scrambling the week before to get it, but you live and you learn. Everybody, even though our signage was a little weird, everybody still walked by, stopped by, talked to us. But I will say I do wish I spent a little bit more time on the setup of our booth, and so that's something me and Tim are playing with now, because the day of I was kind of scrambling getting the pictures picked up from Walgreens and just making sure we could tape them to the table. And I got to see some really, really beautiful booths at the market. So I wish I would have spent a little bit more time on my setup, but it kind of worked out for the first market given how windy it was. I think if we would have had all of the picture frames and crates and tablecloths, we would have been struggling, because we were struggling to keep some of our tomato plants upright inside one of these seed cell trays. I did sell out of a certain variety of tomato. I only had a few to begin with, which was the Baker Creek Black Strawberry Cherry Tomatoes. One thing people were asking me a lot for, and I did not take this into consideration when we were planning our market garden, I was looking at incorporating a standard variety that people would recognize, as well as throwing in a few funky varieties. I really enjoy growing heirloom varieties. I really enjoy growing food varieties that we don't necessarily see in the grocery store that come from other parts of the world. And one thing I was asked for quite a bit was if I had yellow tomatoes. Now, I did have a yellow tomato. I had a cherry tomato and a beefsteak available, but they are a yellow tomato with purple shoulders. And usually when people are asking for yellow tomatoes, it's because they're a little sweeter and lower in acidity, and they find that it doesn't bother them if they have acid reflux versus a traditional red tomato. And I did not take that into consideration. I've heard that before, that some people can only eat the yellow or orange tomatoes, or even the green or white ones, just because it doesn't seem to aggravate their stomach or their reflux as much. And so I came home and immediately started last night 72 tomato plants. 48 of them are yellow, and then the other 24 are just a regular round, a medium-sized slicing tomato. Not necessarily a beefsteak, but not small enough to be considered a cherry. I was asked a couple of times if I had just a normal sized tomato. So I'm not really sure what the the standard tomato sizes, but they didn't want like a beefsteak, they didn't need a Roma, and they didn't want a cherry, so kind of in between there. So I started some regular, just plain red tomatoes. And I will say, I think having a variety of plants out was good. I did not bring a ton of varieties with me, but I didn't bring a ton of options. We only brought tomatoes and melons with us last weekend, and it worked out. We sold some melons, we sold out of a couple varieties of tomatoes, but it's still a little cool up here. We're having a cool down period, but it's hopefully gonna warm up next week. I'm trying to get the garden planted. I'm behind on this video because Friday was the market and our anniversary, and then Saturday we drove to the Cincinnati Zoo and spent the day in Cincinnati, and we had a wonderful time. We got to see the botanical garden. It's kind of built into the zoo all around it, and we got to see some really cool plants, and it was just a good day. And then Sunday was kind of just a day where like I woke up and you couldn't get me out of bed for anything. I didn't want to do anything. So now, today being Wednesday, I am pivoting and getting ready for market. Tomorrow we're gonna pack up. So tomorrow I am bringing more squash, melons, tomatoes. Oh, we have an issue where we have mystery pumpkins. They're either going to be pie pumpkins or like a big carving pumpkin. I'm gonna sell them for just like a couple bucks a piece. They're massive already. And I'm just gonna say it's a mystery pumpkin. You're gonna get what you get. I have no idea what it is. My labels fell off. So that's another thing I learned is, even though we did pretty good with labeling this year, our labeling can use some work. I'm gonna explore different options for labeling our trays next year when we start seed starting again. And I did find that having everything as just one set price made transactions go so much smoother. So I didn't really have to use like a calculator if I needed to give change. All of my plant starts were $5. I found that just to be the easiest way, and I felt that that was a fair price given the size of our plant starts. The other thing I learned is that the market days go quick. We got there extremely early to set up, and by the time we had people coming in, I think people are just anxious to get, you know, summer they're kind of ushering in late spring, early summer. So I had people walking up before market was even open, like, hey, can I go ahead and buy this? And I have really good feelings about it. I think we are gonna meet and exceed our expectations. Maybe not every week, but I think for most of the weeks we will, which I'm trying to stay positive. So what I'm working on today is I found some of these lemon cucumbers. I've never grown them before, but they're like a little yellow, like a small cucumber, and I just thought they were cute. So I'm gonna plant a few for me and a few for the market. And then I need to start my loofahs. Last year, for just our household, I grew 3 loofah plants, and that seemed to work out great for us. And yeah, so that's kind of our market update. Friday was the market. We met our goal. I learned a few things as a very new entrepreneur in this realm that I have just really put myself in. But I also had a lot of time to reflect and remember like the values that were important to me, which I think sometimes we forget why we started doing something in the first place. And for me, it's to make food accessible to people. It's to make gardening accessible to people. It's to grow a community. So this is not going to be a very long video this week. I'm just here to encourage you to plant your gardens, whether it's a flower garden for the pollinator or even just a tomato plant, and to talk to your neighbors. And I'm also here to encourage you to learn some new skills. And yeah, I'm actually headed to Menards to meet Tim. We're gonna pick up some trellising for our tomato plants. I think we're gonna risk it. We're having a cool down period. We went from like the 80s to, it's not even 60 today. But I think we're gonna go ahead and just start planting out the tomatoes because they are rapidly outgrowing my greenhouse, and it's getting to the point where I either have to up pot them again to turn around and plant them, or I can just plant them and mulch them and throw frost cloth over them and hope for the best. We don't have any foreseeable frost in the future, but we do have some cooler temps, which could stunt our tomato plants, but I think between the mulch and frost cloth and sunny days, I think we're gonna be fine. I'm planting 110 tomato plants. I've got to be able to get something from that, is how I'm looking at it. So that is my market update, and I hope you guys are having a great week. And if you live further south, I hope you're enjoying your warm days, because it got cold again up here. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you later this weekend, and maybe I'll get some market footage for you guys.